Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Shri Shri Radha Govind Ki Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande Hare Krishna. Thank you, Rukraj.
Is it on?
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Hare Krishna. I'm very grateful to be here with all the devotees and for having another opportunity to share something in glorification of Sri Krishna and the process of devotional service as taught by Srila Prabhupada. I seek blessings of all the devotees, especially His Grace Ram Raya Prabhu. Hare Krishna. He is distributing the holy names to everyone. So to speak in front of Prabhuji is an embarrassment. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 2, Text 11. Ayam tu lokapalanam Yashogno Nirapatrapa Sadbhiracharita pantha Yena sabdhena dushita Ayam tu lokapalanam Yashogno Nirapatrapa Sadbhiracharita pantha Yena stabdhena dushita Ayam tu lokapalanam Yashogno Nirapatrapa Sadbhiracharita pantha Yena stabdhena dushita
Ayam tu lokapalanam Yashogno Nirapatrapa Sadbhiracharita pantha Yena stabdhena dushita Ayam tu lokapalanam Yashogno Nirapatrapa Sadbhiracharita pantha Yena sabdena dushita Ayam tu lokapalanam nirapatrapa sadviracharita pantha yena sabdena dushita ayam tu lokapalanam yashogno nirapatrapa sadviracharita pantha yena sabdena dushita ayam tu lokapalanam yashogno nirapatrapa sadviracharita pantha yena sabdena dushita ayam tu lokapalanam yashogno nirapatrapa sadviracharita pantha yena sabdena dushita ayam tu lokapalanam yashogno nirapatrapa sadviracharita pantha yena sabdena dushita.
Hare Krishna. Word to word meaning. I am he Shiva. Tu but Lokapalanam of the governors of the universe. Yashagna spoiling the fame. Nirapatrapa shameless. Sadbhi by those of gentle manners. Acharita followed. Pantha the path. Yena by whom? Shiva. Stabdhena being devoid of proper actions. Dushita is polluted. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Shiva has spoiled the name and fame of the governors of the universe and has polluted the path of gentle manners. Because he is shameless, he does not know how to act. So Daksha is speaking this verse and in continuation with his offense to Lord Shiva. Purport. Daksha wanted to impress upon the minds of all the great sages assembled in that meeting that Shiva, being one of the demigods, had ruined the good reputations of all the demigods by his unmannerly behavior. The words used against Lord Shiva by Daksha can also be understood in a different way, in a good sense. For example, he stated that Shiva is Yashogna, which means one who spoils name and fame. So this can also be interpreted to mean that he was so famous that his fame killed all other fame. Again, Daksha used the word Nirapatrapa, which also can be used in two senses. One sense is one who is stunted, and another sense is one who is the maintainer of persons who have no other shelter. Generally, Lord Shiva is known as the Lord of the Bhutas, or lower grade of living creatures. They take shelter of Lord Shiva because he is very kind to everyone and is very quickly satisfied. Therefore, he is called Acyuta. To such men who cannot approach other demigods or Vishnu, Lord Shiva gives shelter. Therefore, the word Nirapatrapa can be used in that sense. We'll offer prayers. Om Adnyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Tushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. It is a great opportunity to speak on Śrimad Bhāgavatam, and at the same time I also humbly seek blessings of all the senior devotees here. But then His Grace Ram Rai Prabhu and His Grace Urugai Prabhu and all the Vaishnavas. This verse and this chapter are very special. In so many purports, Srila Prabhupada is expressing the importance of not offending the devotees. Here the word Yashagnaha is being used to say how one who spoils name and fame. So Srila Vishnacharya Thakur in his commentary is describing that the same thing can also be seen in a positive way. That he was so famous that his fame killed all other fame. So this reminds us of Yashoda. Krishna's mother, Yashoda, her name also means one who increases the fame of someone who is associated with her. So that's what happened to Nanda Maharaj and Vrindavan and Krishna. That is why her name was Yashoda. It is said like that. So this Lord Shiva, he is a very merciful personality. He is more merciful than the Lord himself because he is a devotee of the Lord. One who loves the Lord is so merciful. We can see here how Lord Shiva, he offers shelter to those who are not able to seek shelter from the Supreme Lord himself. Like all the lowest of the creatures. Like we can see devotees are the ones who go out in the streets and they chant the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And they go out and distribute books to those people who are not approaching Krishna. Krishna himself says in the Gita 18th chapter that my message should not be given to those who have turned their faces away from me out of envy. But devotees go out of their way to go and offer them Krishna. Right? And here also Daksha Prajapati is offending Lord Shiva. Now, why does a person offend someone else? Why would a devotee offend someone else? Especially when a person is affected by false ego, so it becomes but natural for him to go and offend someone else. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established Gaudiya Math, just like Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON. And His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, he would explain this to ISKCON leaders. I remember there was this ILS, ISKCON Leaders Sangha, this international event once in a couple of years it happens in Mayapur. And it was the year 2016. In one of the plenaries, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj was speaking about this grave concern. He quoted the situation of Gaudiya Math and he said, why did Gaudiya Math disintegrate? Why did it collapse? Why did it fail? And then he said how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had given instructions to his disciples that always have collective leadership and always focus on preaching. And his disciples actually offended Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself and each other. How did they offend Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? By not following his instruction to focus on preaching. They instead focused on material aspects. And second, they offended each other by fighting with each other, by not having collective leadership and rather by having individual control, individual dominion. And because of this couple of offenses, the entire Gaudiya Math failed. Interestingly, there is a place in Kolkata, there is an area. Now that entire area, many acres, you can almost say it's like the entire neighborhood, that was the property of Gaudiya Math. When Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was there on the planet. But after he left, today when we go, it's just a small place, just the temple itself, like where the temple building is there. That is the only property of Gaudiya Math today. Why? Because all around the Matha, you will see homes and properties of lawyers. Because when devotees fought amongst each other out of the selfishness and ego, they had to go to the court to settle their matters. And in decades to come, all the other properties got sold because they had to pay the lawyer's fees. And now the property is like very small. Just to continue with the Matha. Because of the offenses devotees had towards Saraswati Thakur and towards each other. So this is what false ego results in. So there is this personality, His Holiness Bon Maharaj. He was a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and he was a senior godbrother of Srila Prabhupada. So he was amongst the ones who were sent to London by Saraswati Thakur in 1930s, 40s. And when they returned back, they told Saraswati Thakur that your process does not work. The process of Krishna consciousness does not work outside India. And Saraswati Thakur was deeply hurt, because they just came back empty-handed. They didn't try sufficiently, and most importantly, they didn't carry that faith. They rather offended Saraswati Thakur by saying that the process does not work. And later on, after a few years, Saraswati Thakur left the planet. He went back to Goloka Vrindavan. And Bon Maharaj shares in one of his books that I carry that guilt of not being able to carry that much courage and humility, to gather that humility and courage, to go in front of my spiritual master and to beg forgiveness. And now he has left the planet. And that guilt of that offense I'll have to carry it with me forever, up to my death. And maybe I get to meet him somewhere and I seek forgiveness. So, in the spiritual life, in the path of Krishna consciousness, everything is blissful and ecstatic. Just there is one thing. The only thing we are afraid of is Vaishnava Aparadha. It's much more dangerous than even committing sins, by coming in trap of Maya. Because Vaishnava Aparadha is where our bhakti gets stunted. Because it is displeasing to Krishna. So, what are the effects of Vaishnava Aparadha? So, one of the effects of Vaishnava Aparadha is that one loses enthusiasm in hearing and chanting, which is the very life and soul of process of devotional service. Second effect of Vaishnava Aparadha is that one develops material desires naturally, because one is not now having enthusiasm in hearing and chanting Krishna's glories, and then naturally one develops material desires. Third is one starts losing his faith at times. His faith in the very basic activities of Krishna consciousness. And history has shown that those who took it upon themselves to unnecessarily offend other devotees, so they had to pay a heavy price. Let us see from Śrimad Bhāgavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and Ramayana themselves, like from the scriptures, the examples of personalities who got carried away and they made offenses towards others. So like in 6th canto of Śrimad Bhāgavatam, we have the example of Indra. Indra is a very famous example of offending. So yes, he offended Lord Krishna himself in Vrindavan, when he offended all the Vrindavan Vasis in Govardhan Leela. Then we have the example of Indra offending Brihaspati, his own spiritual master. Because that offense was an offense by omission. Like he just neglected to pay respects to his spiritual master. Another time Indra offended Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni had given him the garland, and then Indra just didn't value it because he had material vision. So he just threw it to elephant, and the elephant just crushed it. So what can he understand the value of blessings of a great soul? And Durvasa felt offended. And in both the cases, Indra and demigods had to pay a heavy price. And Indra and Durvasa himself also offended. We know the famous example of Durvasa offending Ambarish Maharaj in 8th canto. In fact, Durvasa is pretty famous for his head weight, right? His false ego. Then we have examples of Saubhari Muni in 9th canto. So Saubhari Muni offended Garuda. Saubhari Muni had been doing tapasya, austerities for hundreds and thousands of years in Satya Yuga. And nothing happened to him. He was under the waters. But then suddenly one fine day, he offended Garuda because Garuda was coming to that water body, the water reservoir, and picking up some fishes, And this person, Saubhari Muni, was offended. He said, no, you can't come here. So he unnecessarily poked his nose into affairs which did not concern him. It's under Krishna's jurisdiction what to allow, what not to allow. And he offended Garuda, the very personal carrier of Lord Vishnu himself. And thus, what did not happen in hundreds and thousands of years happened in just one day. After he offends Garuda, when he sees the fishes mating under the water, he also develops this great urge to find a mate, find a mating partner. And he just gets out of the water and he straight walks to the city, the kingdom. And then he goes to the king and says, I want to marry one of your daughters. And the king saw this Saubhari Muni so pathetic, like after, his body was like totally frozen and it was so bad to look at, because he was under the water for so many years. It was like totally softened. But then by his mystic powers, he made his body better. And then he married many of the daughters of king. So the entire idea is because he offended Garuda, he developed great urge for material sense gratification and fell down from his spiritual life. Similarly, we see Nal Kuvera and Manigriv in 10th canto, they offend Narada Muni because they were engaged in illicit sex. So one who is deeply engaged in sinful activities sometimes does not understand the glories of great soul and then happens to offend him. And then later on, of course, because they became humble, this is one thing which is an antidote of offense. If one becomes humble, then immediately they begged forgiveness from Narada Muni. Oh, we are sorry, actually, we didn't realize what we are doing. So Narada Muni said, okay, because you offended and you acted like ignorant people, you will definitely become trees. But you will become trees in Nanda Maharaj's courtyard, and there you will attain Krishna. Because they got association of Vrindavan Vasis. Then we see example of Vishwamitra Muni in Ramayana, who offended Vashishta because he wanted to prove himself to be the best. So wherever we see false ego, wherever we see false pride, that might as well translate into an offense. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya himself told that the devotee should always try to be humble. Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishna, amanina manadena, kirtanya sadhari. So, can I, in the end, can we have question? So, we also find in the same Ramayana, Sugriva offending Lakshman by not paying respect to Lakshman when Ram and Lakshman both were there. So it often happens with devotees that they just want to respect the topmost guy, some sannyasi or some guru or some GBC or some Srila Prabhupada disciple, and they may neglect to respect a younger devotee, or they may neglect to respect a householder devotee. They may neglect to respect a devotee who may not be knowing a lot of knowledge or who may not be on a post. And that is exactly what is called as material vision. Spiritual vision means to be able to see the essence of the devotee, which is Krishna. And material vision means to go on the bodily platform. So we see similarly Gopal Chapal, he offered Srivas Thakur in Chaitanya Charitamrita by trying to defame Srivas Thakur, because he was envious that why Srivas Thakur getting so much fame. Similarly, another personality, Gopal Chakravarti, he offended Haridas Thakur, because he challenged Haridas Thakur that how can you say that the holy name is so glorious that it can liberate anybody. So Haridas Thakur was humble, but then Lord Chaitanya took Gopal Chakravarti's offense very seriously, and later on Gopal Chakravarti's nose melted out of leprosy. We find similarly even Yamaraj shares that how he happened to offend Manduka Muni, because Yamaraj was on a post. So in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada explains how if someone has post or position in this world, even amongst devotees, even a guru, Prabhupada says, one should be very careful. Even parents or teachers or heads of the state, they cannot just offend just because they are on the post. So even Yamaraj had to pay the price. And then he takes birth in a very lower family. Of course, but because he was a great devotee, so he continued his devotional service as Vidura. So then Suruchi offends Dhruva, because Suruchi had tremendous amount of ego that only a person who is born from my womb, only a child, that child only deserves to have the love of the king. So we find many such examples where such offenses were made. We find Ramachandra Khan offending Shri Nityanand Prabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We find Romaharshan Suta, who was proud of his knowledge. He offends Balramji himself by not paying respect to Balramji, thinking that I am great because I am speaking on Śrimad Bhāgavatam. So even others like Kamsa, Ravana, Rukmi, who was the brother of Rukmini who offended Krishna. Any character we take from the pages of the Shastras, any Shastra, be it Ramayana, be it Chaitanya Charitamrita, be it Śrimad Bhāgavatam, be it any other Puranas, we find anybody who considered himself a very special, a very distinct, or a very great personality due to the material parameters. Maybe I am rich, maybe I am very beautiful, maybe I am very strong, maybe I have a lot of knowledge, maybe I am very renounced like Durvasa. And in all these cases, the person happened to offend. Even Keshav Kashmiri offended directly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conduct actually made him humble, but then we find that he offended. So it brings arrogance. False pride and false ego brings arrogance, like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. They had so many powers with them because of the blessings they received from Brahma. So they just thought that they have the license to be arrogant upon anyone, and offend anyone in the universe. Duvida Gorilla, who himself was in the association of Lord Ramachandra, who was an associate of Lord Ramachandra, but because he accepted wrong association later on of people who themselves were envious of the Lord, therefore he also became offensive. He also became envious. And later on Balramji had to tighten him. Right? So all these examples we find that the person who had tremendous amount of ego, tremendous amount of overestimated false pride for himself, just like here Daksha Prajapati. Daksha Prajapati is calculating his own greatness due to material parameters. And he is not able to understand Lord Shiva's greatness due to his spiritual parameters. Spiritually speaking, Lord Shiva is the greatest personality in the entire universe, in the entire creation. It is said, in fact, in the Shastra. In the spiritual world, Radharani is the topmost devotee. And other than the spiritual world, in the rest of the creation, Lord Shiva is the topmost devotee. But for Daksha Prajapati, he saw Lord Shiva as his son-in-law. He saw Lord Shiva just as a demigod, and that's where he committed mistake. So this material vision of seeing someone as in terms of bodily connection, leads to offensive mentality. But we find even if someone offends, there is a great hope. As they say, every sinner has a future, every saint had a past. And at Krishna's lotus feet, there is always hope. So, like for example, we find Rahugana. In the 5th canto, Rahugana, the king, happens to offend Jadabharat. Now, Jadabharat was a great devotee. Jadabharat had fallen down from his bhava bhakti because of his attachment to deer. But then he becomes a deer, again comes back to Krishna conscious path, and then becomes Jadabharat, and now he was a Mahabhagavat, highest grade of pure devotee. And now as Jadabharat, he was offended by Rahugana. Because Rahugana, you know the story probably, like how Rahugana's palanquin was being carried by his men, and then one man was missing. So they just pulled this guy from the street, Jadabharat. And Jadabharat was a young man and a very powerfully built. The only problem was he was so spiritually enlightened that when he was carrying the palanquin, he would not step on the ants and insects on the road. And therefore, the palanquin was kind of going shaky. And Rahugana felt, I am the king. How can he drive like this? And then he just started chastising Jadabharat. That you fool, you are having such a able body and yet you are driving the palanquin like that. Why do you do that? Don't you realize I am your master, I am the king of this land and you are just my servant. And that time Jadabharat thought, this is the time I must enlighten this king. He felt it out of his great merciful heart, compassionate heart. And then he starts speaking that, what are you saying, my dear king? In this lifetime, you may be the king. I may be your servant. In another lifetime, I may be the king. You may be my servant. There is nothing like servant and master in this world. We all are servants of the Supreme Lord. We all are spirit souls. And he went on describing the basic fundamental knowledge of spiritual life. And the king immediately became humbled by hearing this knowledge. He got enlightened. He immediately begged forgiveness. Not only from Jadabharat, he actually got down from the chariot, from the palanquin, and he started paying obeisances in all directions. He said, any devotee in any direction of this world, I want to pay my obeisances so that I don't offend that devotee. That is the reason we also pay obeisances every morning. Vancha kalpatarvasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So actually, this is one of the ways we can rectify our offenses. Just like we see Rahugana immediately humbled himself, begged forgiveness. So the question is, if one happens to have committed an offense, how to rectify? So the most important element in rectifying our mistake is to be humble. Unless we become humble, we cannot think of rectifying our mistake. How do we become humble? By hearing Krishna Katha, by hearing the transcendental knowledge, like Rahugana heard. And immediately he felt, no, I should beg forgiveness. I did the wrong thing. So how to get out of the offense? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Bhakti Aloka book, 3 ways to get out of the offense. First is, one can beg forgiveness from the lotus feet of the devotee, one who happens to offend, one whom we offended. Like here we find Rahugana begging forgiveness from Jada Bharat. We also find many other examples where a devotee who happened to offend someone else actually went and begged forgiveness, and then he was forgiven. Even Indra goes to Krishna himself, and begs forgiveness. So this is the first step. If sometime the devotee does not happen to offend because he feels too bad, the devotee is not forgiving somehow, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, do the second thing. What is that second thing? Go and render some seva to that devotee. Serve him in such a way that his heart gets melted. And then he also will forgive. I've had a personal experience of this. I happened to offend one senior devotee, kind of unknowingly, but also kind of because of my arrogance. Several years back, it was like in the year 2010, and then I was just going on like seeking his forgiveness, but somehow it had hurt him very much. And then I started rendering some seva whenever some opportunity came. But then it like couple of years went by, and actually I did not get his blessings, his forgiveness. And my mentor, he was always encouraging me that no, you must continue the endeavor whenever you get opportunity. And I remember once there were some leaders meetings in India, and in those meetings, like I was also getting the opportunity to render seva to the devotees gathered. And Prabhuji had also come, and somehow or other by Krishna's arrangement he fell ill. He fell terribly ill. And then he could not go back also to his place, like from where he had come for the meetings. And then I was there like for a couple of weeks with him, and I was just nursing him back to health, cooking for him, cleaning or medicating him, whatever. And then he was very happy and he blessed me. He just told me that thank you for offering me motherly care. And he smiled and he was like, he said, I'm very happy with you. And I remember I was so joyful. It's like Krishna coming back to life, So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says second way is like one can offer some service to the devotee. And third way is even if that devotee does not still, forgives from his heart, then one can simply take shelter of Krishna by chanting the holy names intensely. Krishna forgives. It's not like, the offense is eternal. It's not like that. So, some more things which are solutions, which are given in the Shastras or by our Acharyas as solutions to offensive mentality or to offenses. So, some few of them I'll just try to discuss here. One solution which is given is like one of the reasons envy happens is because of envy. So, if it happens, if the person has envious mentality, then it is said the antidote of envy is appreciation. So, when we offer appreciation to others whom we are envious of, so slowly that envy gets dissolved actually, and then only positivity remains. So then no question of offenses. So appreciation is one solution. Then next solution is humility. So when the offenses are happening because of excessive false pride or false ego, then one should try to be humble. How to become humble? So to become humble, we have to become absorbed in the glories of Krishna, Acharya, Guru and other Vaishnavas. We cannot become simply humble by seeing our own faults. That's one way. Okay, that's one way to become humble, by seeing our own faults. There is this Vyas Puja offering of 1986 to Srila Prabhupada by His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Swami Maharaj. In that I just saw Maharaj's humility. He is writing to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, if I come to you now and I may boast about myself that look, I have opened so many temples, you may ask me, but what about lust? Have you conquered lust? Have you developed love for Krishna? So Prabhupada, I'll tell you, I have made so many disciples, I have made so many devotees. And Prabhupada, you will say, that's all right. What about the lust? Have you developed love for Krishna? Have you developed pure chanting of the holy names? And Prabhupada, I'll tell you how many books I have distributed and how many funds all the devotees and I myself we have collected for ISKCON. And then Prabhupada will again ask me, that's all right. But what about conquering lust and false ego by developing love for me and my holy names? And so he goes on giving all the arguments which, and Prabhupada, don't you know I am GVC? So I'm rendering big seva. And then Prabhupada again. So he goes on and on. And then finally he says, sure Prabhupada, I feel so humbled, naked, and I feel like a total insignificant, useless person in front of you. Because you are so pure, you are so great, you love Krishna, and yet I have not developed any love for Krishna. I am filled with lust, anger, pride, envy. So actually Prabhupada writes in 6th canto, 2nd chapter, purports, many of the purports in Ajamila section. Prabhupada says that if one can be repentant like Ajamila, then one is very fortunate, because one will always remain humble. That, what faults can I see in others? I am myself filled with faults. I'm honeycombed with faults. What faults can I see in others? So Prabhupada talks about Ajamila's repentance and then his gratitude because he was saved by Krishna, and then his determination to further not fall down. So like that. So when we can be humble by seeing Krishna's greatness, Prabhupada's greatness, the sweetness of the holy name, then we would not like to hear about ourselves. Like someone glorifies us, oh, Prabhu did this and this seva, Hari Bol, Prabhu is like this, Prabhu is like that. And the devotee, if he is really humble, he will say, Prabhu, what are you saying about me? Come on, probably you have not heard about Srila Prabhupada. Let me talk to you about Prabhupada. He is really glorious. Let me talk to you about holy names. Holy names are really glorious. I'm all right, I'm nothing. So humility does not necessarily mean condemning oneself. It actually means glorifying Krishna, glorifying Prabhupada so much, that one doesn't want the highlight or the limelight on himself. That's humility. So that's another way. Third way is following Vaishnava etiquettes. When we follow Vaishnava etiquettes, like we bow down to the Vaishnavas, we offer respects to the deities, devotees and spiritual master. So there is very less room for making offense. And therefore, even the basic etiquettes, the basic activities of sadhana bhakti, they safeguard us actually. Just like paying obeisances to Vaishnavas every morning, that safeguards us like that. So the etiquettes have been designed like that to inspire respect, to instill respect in the hearts of devotees. Another solution which is given by the acharyas is to develop spiritual vision. Like for example, someone disrespects us, or someone points out some faults in us. So if we regularly hear and read the scriptures, then what happens? We will be inspired by the examples given in the scriptures, just as we discussed today. Oh, actually it is right. I am a conditioned soul. Prabhu is not wrong in telling that, I acted wrongly. So one will actually see that person as one's well-wisher instead of taking an offense, or instead of making an offense. So by regularly hearing and reading the scriptures, one's consciousness is elevated, and one starts seeing such things more as blessings rather than as a curse. So to elevate our level of consciousness, Nityam Bhagavat Seva, regularly hearing and reading the scriptures, they keep us grounded. So if we are grounded, then we don't get shock, like we touch some live wire. But then if we have the grounding, the earthing, then we'll not get the shock. But if we are not grounded, then we'll get the shock of false ego. Another way to not offend someone, or to rather love other devotees, is is by loving Krishna and Prabhupada more. How? For example, I become envious of someone because he is doing more books than myself, or he's able to preach more and make more devotees than myself. He's able to dress Krishna better than myself. He's able to cook better than myself. So I may become envious and then I may offend him. So one very easy solution is, if I love Krishna more, if I love Prabhupada more, then instead of becoming envious of that devotee or becoming proud myself, what will rather happen is, like I'll be grateful to that devotee. Prabhu, you are serving Krishna. Because of you, Radha Govinda are more pleased. Thanks to you. That was my job. I wanted that to happen, that Radha Govinda should be pleased, Prabhupada's movement should go on, and you are making it happen. Thank you so much. It's like if I love my kid and someone helps my kid, then I become grateful to that guy because I love my kid. So if I love Prabhupada more, if I love Krishna more, then I won't offend others. Rather, I will be grateful to every devotee because they are serving my Prabhupada, they are serving my Krishna. They are serving my ISKCON, my home. Yeah. So this is also another solution, another tip which one ISKCON devotee, he was speaking in his class, was about focus on commonality, don't focus on differences. When we focus on differences, that's where we get into material mentality. Okay, oh, this devotee is like that, or this devotee is like that, or he is another guru's disciple, or he is, whatever. One may focus on the differences, rather focus on the commonality. Like there may be a tug of war between devotees of different departments, of different preaching groups or something. But instead of focusing on the differences, if they focus on the commonality, that we are in one team, we are actually having the same goal, we are on one page, we are having the same mission here, come on, we are on the same side, then there is no question of offense. Like I'll just share one example. One time in Mayapur, there was this common gathering of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and there was I think it was an event in ISKCON temple campus, and lots of sannyasis and senior devotees and leaders from Gaudiya Math had also joined. So there was this one ISKCON devotee, one senior devotee, who was speaking in the mic. Now before him, many others had also spoken from both the sides. And this devotee, he knew that there was this tension between ISKCON and Gaudiya Math. Who is Prabhupada? Like, whom can we call as Prabhupada? Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur or Srila Prabhupada, our Abhayacharana Ravind Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada? So he was so mature. What did he do? In his speech, in his address, because he was representing ISKCON, you know what he did? He started narrating. He began by saying, in 1922, in Kolkata, once at a place called Ulta Danga Junction, there was this small matha, where a personality called Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, Hare Krishna, Prabhu helps keep everyone awake every day. So this devotee began saying that in 1922, at this place in Kolkata, in this matha, in this simple matha, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Swami Prabhupada was speaking on Krishna Katha. And two young men, Narendra and his friend Abhay Charan De, they happened to visit. Narendra brought Abhay Charan De, that young man, to that assembly. And Abhay Charan, the moment he entered, his special spiritual potential was recognized by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And then he addressed him that, oh young man, you seem to be an educated, cultured person. Why don't you spread the message of Lord Chaitanya in English language all over the world? And Abhay was shocked. Abhay was surprised. Are you talking to me? And then he started that that debate that, oh, first political independence is required in this country and then spiritual emancipation. And in that debate he was defeated. He was thoroughly defeated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. But Abhay was very happy. He was delighted. He said that today I am first time defeated in my life and I am so happy because I found the greatest shelter. And today I have found that the message of Lord Chaitanya is in the right hands. Today I have found a very nice saintly person. And in the heart of Abhay, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur Prabhupada sowed that seed, which later on took the shape of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And today it is all over the world. So this ISKCON, which is there everywhere today, its inspiration, its seed, and its blueprint was given by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur Prabhupada in the heart of that young man Abhay. And today we thank Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada and all his followers, including Abhay, for representing Gaudiya Vaishnavism so nicely to all of us. And then he ended. And both the ISKCON devotees were very happy to hear him, as well as the Gaudiya Matha devotees. Why? Because it's not that he said that our Prabhupada is not Prabhupada. He just focused on the commonality. And he actually gave credit of ISKCON to both our Prabhupada as well as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur Prabhupada. And in doing so, he won the hearts of both. This is called maturity. Why to offend unnecessarily? We have 99.99% of the world to battle with. That battle is already on. Why to create more battles? Every devotee is already battling with lust, anger, pride, greed, envy in his heart. Why to add one more enemy for him? I am also there, come on. You seem to have less lust, anger. Add me to the list. No. So this is another solution to escape from offenses by focusing on commonality. By in fact trying to serve other devotees. And the most important way to not offend anyone, the most important way, that is the most beautiful way actually, and that is the eternal solution, and which is to have Krishna element in the center of all relationships. Which means, if we enhance our Krishna consciousness and if we can also acknowledge others' Krishna consciousness, then there is no question of offense. I'll just conclude with this, like couple of minutes. I'll share two examples. Like one is, there is a diary of traveling preacher, diary of traveling monk, I think, by his own as Indradanu Maharaj. It used to be diary of traveling preacher. So there is one volume, one chapter. I think it was somewhere in 2005 or 10, like somewhere in middle of that. So Maharaj was in Poland, like his summer festival, like he does now, couple of months every year. And in one of the places, one of their camps, they were there for like a week or so. There was this driver called Anthony. He was an employee. He was a hired person. He was not a devotee. But then after spending few days with devotees, he was kind of very he gelled with devotees very nicely. But devotees used to complain to Maharaj almost every day about him, that he behaves so rudely. He speaks harshly. He's shouting and yelling at devotees. He has these rules that devotees should board the buses by 9 o'clock, and so he would not take even any simple reason for like few minutes late, or so he was kind of very harsh. And devotees are every day complaining to Maharaj. Maharaj, we don't like him so much and all. And Maharaj's anger was like rising. Maharaj shares like that. And after like 4 or 5 days, Maharaj decided, today I am going to straighten him out. He seems to be boiling too much. And then Maharaj thought, let me go to him at the end of the festival today's festival, and let me speak to him. And that day Maharaj, when he returned, like when he took the bus inside the parking bay, and he himself came to Maharaj. He said, Maharaj, I want to talk to you. couple of minutes. Maharaj said, yes, I also wanted to talk to you. And then Maharaj thought, let him go first, because he will speak some nonsense about some devotees and I'll have an additional reason to thrash him. And then you know what he speaks? He says, Maharaj, I wish to thank you so much. Maharaj said, why? He said, Maharaj, every single day in the evening when you do that kirtan, the closing kirtan, that 1 hour kirtan, that kirtan has become my life and soul. And then he started crying and he started expressing how that kirtan helped me to develop faith, how that kirtan is helping me to overcome my lower tendencies. And then he took out from his wallet, there was a Virgin Mary photo, okay? Now that photo was given to him by his mother, and that his mother had received that from so that photo was very special for him, very special for him. That previously he had shared that with devotees. So for him it was the most special position of his life. And he said, the joy and the hope which you have given to me by your kirtans, I don't have anything to repay you with. So I don't know what to give you, so I am giving you this. And Maharaj knew what that meant for him. And then he just handed over to Maharaj, paid obeisances. And then he said, Maharaj, you wanted to also say something. Now Maharaj felt like a I don't know, like a dumb person or a Maharaj said, no, nothing. I also just wanted to appreciate, you have been doing seva to devotees. And he said, no, sometimes I've been a little harsh with devotees. That's all right. You have a very soft heart, although your speech may be harsh. So Maharaj writes later on in that diary entry. Actually then, next day, which was the last evening, when Maharaj did kirtan, he spoke from the stage in mic to everyone. Thousands of people gathered. Today's kirtan and festival is dedicated to Antony. And Antony started crying. Maharaj called him on the stage. Let us have kirtan together. So when Maharaj saw his Krishna consciousness, all those thoughts got dissolved, So that's what happens actually. I have this experience, I'll conclude with this. In my childhood, so I just happened to be born in a good family. So my parents used to take me to Krishna temples and they used to follow the path of Krishna consciousness. It was in another sampradaya, Vallabh sampradaya, Jai Shri Krishna. So as a small child also, they would take me to this city called Nathadwara. It's a holy place, another Vrindavan in the state of Rajasthan. And I still remember there was this temple of Madan Mohan ji, Gopal ji. So they would just go and put me there because they would go around, different things they would be doing. Sometimes for 4 hours, 6 hours, they would just put me in that temple. I was a small boy. And there were this couple of devotees there in that sampradaya. They had this big book, So they would read that book was in one of the Indian languages, North Indian languages, similar to Hindi. They would just read from that book, And they would be so much absorbed in Krishna, just appreciating Krishna and his pastimes. And I saw that since my childhood, almost 30-35 years I have those memories. Every time I would visit there, I would just, same place, same people, same devotees. I saw them from their later youth to their old age and, and a couple of years back when I went, so every time I would go, I would just rush to that place because I wanted to see their. And they didn't want anything, no recognition, no position like as in ISKCON and all, no Haribols, just so happy to just glorify Krishna. Whether one person was there, nobody was there, only deity would be there or many people would be there. It didn't matter to them. And the joy which was visible on their faces and their hearts was so captivating for me. I never understood initially what they're talking about. Later on I did, but so now, a couple of years back also when I got to go there and I immediately rushed to, and then I didn't see them. First time in my life I didn't see them. Especially that devotee who used to lead. So when I asked the pujari, who was also, I have been seeing him also all these years. So he just smiled. He said, He had tears in his eyes. He said, oh, he went to Krishna. He went to Gopalji. He left his body. And I remember I was like, oh, I just couldn't take that news, I just, oh my God. So I had such deep respect for that person, just because he relished Krishna. I saw that he has some affection, some love for Krishna, definitely. And I asked, where is the other devotee? He said, because that devotee left, so that devotee also shifted to Vrindavan. He also must be old. So there are so many devotees like that. I've heard like a couple of devotees in Ayodhya. Whenever I went, they're just simple devotees, okay, simple old people, just chanting whole day. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Entire day. I've been seeing since like 35 years, since my childhood. One devotee at Govardhan, he was Vrajvasi himself, his name was Giriraj Baba. He met Prabhupada and he met many Prabhupada disciples. He was so humble, always glorifying them. And just 3 years back, he also left. So whenever I used to go for Govardhan Parikrama, I would always go and sit and hear from him. So humble. He was almost 80, 85 years old when he left. Always very Krishna conscious. Till his last day, he served the deities. So there are so many devotees like that. So when we see devotees' Krishna consciousness, and when that is the introduction of theirs in our heart, like if I think of Hansarupa Prabhu, so like yesterday he was mentioning in Bhāgavatam class, right? Day for yesterday, that how we should have a big temple here and, all those, and how Ram Rai Prabhu, he is spreading the holy name. So when we keep these as introductions in our hearts of devotees about their Krishna consciousness, how they love to chant, how they are dedicated to Prabhupada, instead of their material parameters. What is their post, which country they belong to, which ashram. These are all material parameters. How do they talk, how do they walk? Instead of focusing on these, when we focus on their Krishna element, that is the essence of their life, that is eternal. Other things will change, how they talk, how they don't talk, these things will change. These things are temporary. They change with lifetimes, they change with bodies. These are based on karma. So when you focus on the Krishna element, there is no question of offense. Then we want to serve. Then we want to glorify. So thank you very much for your kind attention and time. I'm sorry to go 10 minutes overboard. So in this section, Daksha Prajapati by his example is teaching us how to see spiritual essence in a person like Shiva and then respect him, not to see material side and then happen to offend. Hare Krishna. Grantara Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Phil Prabhu will miss you.